Hi, good morning. Happy New Year. As it is the 1st of January, as I record this at about 11 a.m. in the morning, 10:52 to be exact, which probably means it isn't New Year's everywhere. It's still the 31st of December in half of the world. um, but we here in New Zealand celebrate New Year, I think the first country in the world, or maybe the second. I think it might be a Pacific island like Tonga or Samoa that gets before this. Anyway, recognize this one? I was actually just reading that apparently there's two different color schemes on the original pressing. There was the first one was this, like it's kind of a sepia toned, and there's also a red and black one, which is the one I was more familiar with. Um, I actually thought I had the red and black one as I was reading it, and then I looked at mine. I was like, "Hey, shit, it's not red and black." Third Eye Blind, their first album, debut album from 1997. Third Eye Blind, Third Eye Blind. Um, and I think these guys are really this album is really representative of rock, mainstream rock music at that time, 1997. The kind of rock music that was played on the radio, it kind of still on the tail. Excuse me, still on the tail of alternative rock, but maybe we're cutting into the post grunge era, and it kind of feels strange to call Third Eye Blind post grunge. Um, I would kind of call it. It definitely has alternative rock. Yeah, I always use this word elements, but it's like uh, all the things that kind of made alternative rock, the kind of the sharp edges or the rough edges or the dissonance or all that kind of stuff has been cut off, and you're left with this kind of very smooth. And I don't mean smooth in the sense of smooth music. I mean more in the smooth, and it's actually very easy to listen to this. It's quite catchy. I think it's actually good music, as in it's like it's well written and it's they're not bad songs, but at the same time, I could understand why some people would feel kind of I don't know, a certain antipathy towards this kind of music. Like what else was around this time? Like Matchbox 20 and I guess Creed was starting. Okay, they were maybe a little bit later, and they were a little bit different as well. They had kind of more of a rock edge. Um, but if you lived through the late 90s, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Tonic, remember Tonic? And uh, it's that band I talked about the other day, Semisonic. Um, yeah. Anyway, so this album, see here, it's got the sticker on it, Third Eye Blind, featuring Semi Charmed Life and Graduate. Those were the two big singles, especially Semi Charmed Life. That song was everywhere in 1998 here, even 1999. And my first real memory of this album is, well, probably was hearing Semi Chan live on TV. Sorry, on the radio. But um, my girlfriend at the time, if she watches this video, which she won't, I can always guarantee the girl I'm talking about would never. Well, she's now a woman. She's a 40-year-old woman. But the woman I'm talking about would. The chances of her coming across this on YouTube are infinitesimally small. So I'm not going to say anything bad, but I was just. Um, she bought this, I remember, and she got a free in New Zealand. Maybe in America they call it a beanie, like kind of a a woolen hat. She got a free beanie with it. I remember with the 3BE symbol on the front of it. In my memory, it was a black beanie with a red stitched 3BE symbol. And she obviously liked these guys. If you had asked me back then, in that time, I wouldn't have. Actually, I can't. I remember not liking them, but I didn't really listen to them much. But I've talked about this before. Kind of when you're at that age, I would have been about 17, 18, around then. You don't admit liking these kinds of bands, especially if they're kind of the bands that are popular with girls. which these guys did seem to get that female audience, didn't they? And I've talked about that before with bands like Bush and Silverchair, where they have kind of a front man that is particularly handsome or charismatic in some way, and maybe you've got a song that captures not just the male rock audience, but kind of cuts across to kind of the female, more pop audience. And I think Stephen Jenkins, who is the front man of this band, there was a time there where he was kind of considered to be a leading man type figure. I'd say didn't kind of maintain that. They didn't really maintain their fame or their popularity. But I remember there was a period there where people used to talk about him as, oh, he's so hot, or he's so this, or he's so that. But yeah, this was secondhand. This was 50 cents I purchased this for. The booklet's in pretty good condition for something that was bought probably back in 1998. And like I said, the first 500,000 run print of this album was in the sepia toned color scheme. And then subsequently after that, it sold 6 million copies in the US and probably another million or two around the world. Everything after that was in the red and black color tone. So this was in the first 500,000 run. Whoever bought this. And actually, the person who bought it wrote their goddamn name on the disc, as some people seem to do. I think it's T. Avery. I've got a few discs that I bought secondhand where people have written their name. This was put out by Elektra Records. They had a deal with Elektra. The CD is actually in very good condition. A little minor scratch there. It plays fine. I was just listening to this morning. The first album, CD I should say, because I was listening to music last night. But the first actual CD album I listened to in 2024 was Third Eye Blind. Who would have predicted? So the one thing you notice when I listen through to it is that a lot of the songs are like there were a lot of singles. Okay, I think Losing a Whole Year, the first song, Semi Charm Life, of course, Jumper, Graduate. So it's at 1, 2, 3, 4. Was there another one? There might have been actually a fifth single. Hang on. Oh, of course, How's It Gonna Be? Did I say that one? No, okay, that's over here. So the first, Losing the Whole Year, 1, Semi Charm Life, 2, Jumper, 3, Graduate, 4, How's It Gonna Be, 5. Okay, so 5 singles on the first half of the album. And that first half of the album is really every second song is a single, or even more than every second song. And you listen through it, and even the songs that aren't singles, I feel could have been. Like that second one, Narcolepsy, I think that's got a single potential. So, yeah, if you put on a song like Jumper, that's the one that's kind of, I wish you did it. It's F and G on the guitar if you're trying to play it. It's such a you listen to that and you think, well, that's not alternative rock at all. That sounds like it's something that would, I don't know. Like it starts off with just the acoustic guitar and the vocal. And I guess it comes in with more guitars and a little bit more distortion, but it's yeah, absolutely. Like I said, all the spiky bits and all the maybe challenging bits of alternative rock and grunge, and even all the what would you call the not down tempo, yeah, the darker elements seem to have been completely removed, and it's kind of like this was almost like the apogee or the zenith of that, of taking alternative rock, taking off all those parts, just leaving the kind of the core of a pop song, and then kind of having some guitars around it, and really beyond that, once you push past that, you're in total pop music territory. Don't know what I'm trying to say there, but maybe you get what I'm saying. I guess what I'm repeating the same thing is because it kind of just struck me listening again, I've listened to this album many times and heard those singles, God knows how many times. But just listening to it again this morning, I just thought, geez, this is a really catchy, easy to listen to album. I can understand. I'm not trying to be sexist here, but girls, females, and when I'm talking about girls, maybe more teenage girls, tend tended. Yeah, maybe I should talk about my generation because I don't know what girls do nowadays. But in my generation, they tended to shy away from the harder music, and they had a more natural inclination towards hooks and kind of the pop elements of songs. And so I can see why this crossed over and got popularity with that market. Yeah. So the well, I was talking about Stephen Jenkins, the guitarist and frontman and main songwriter. He wrote most of this album together with uh, the guy. What's his Kodogan? I think Cadogan. Is that here? Kevin Cadogan? Now, I'm not sure if he was the bassist or other guitarist. Um, Motorcycle Drive By. That was another big song. It wasn't a single, but I remember a lot of people used to talk about that song. So you can see here the credits. So Jenkins Cadogan, Semi Charm Life, just Jenkins, Jumper, just Jenkins, Jenkins Cadogan, Jenkins Cadogan, Jenkins Cadogan. So they co-wrote most of the album together. Okay, he wasn't guitarist. He wasn't bassist. He was the second guitarist, I guess, rhythm or lead or whoever, whatever. But he left. The album that came after this, Blue, I've kind of heard bits and pieces. I don't think I've ever listened to it end to end, and I haven't never seen it around. Um, that got some success apparently, but it was certainly nowhere near the level of this debut album. And so something happened. From what it sounded like, that guy Jenkins, like I've heard some negativity around that guy, that he's not a particularly nice person. He apparently, they formed the band together, and Kevin Cadogan was told that he would have equal placement in the band. He'd be a co-leader of the band, even though he wasn't a singer. But he would be, he was one of the principal songwriters on this album, their biggest, most successful album. And he felt he wasn't treated that way. He was treated kind of with treated as like kind of a secondary position in the band. And apparently, um, unbeknownst to the rest of the band, Stephen Jenkins had gone out and incorporated the band as a business with him as the owner. I don't know how that band law legal stuff works, but that's what it was explained in the very basic way that I read, was that, yeah, he secretly went out and registered Third Eye Blind as an incorporated business. And so therefore he had all the rights of decision making. Um, and I can imagine that would rub certain people the wrong way. And yeah, and so Kevin Cadogan, he left. He didn't stay in the band, and that was part of it. And that second album they did, Blue, that I think it went platinum in the US, but it was nowhere near the level of this thing here. I'm trying to see what were the singles on that album. Anything, Never Let You Go. See, none of these songs ring a bell. I'm sure I've heard some of them before. Um, and then for the last 20, however many years, 20, they're still going, they're still touring. I would imagine that there's been multiple lineup changes, but Stephen Jenkins is still in the band, obviously. But I think they tour now on those nostalgia kind of tours. You see them, they never come down here, but bands like the ones I just mentioned before, uh, Third Eye Blind, Tonic, Toad the Wet Sprocket, although they're a little bit earlier, aren't they? Macy's Playground, Eve Six. Who were some of those other ones? Well, they're the one. I've talked about the song before. The Paranoia, Paranoia, everybody's coming to get. What's that song called? Whatever that song's called. the guys who did that, truly a one-hit wonder. Bare Naked Ladies. These were the bands that I put together. I know that they kind of, some of them come from different things. Maybe Bare Naked Ladies have got a longer lineage than just from that late 90s tail end of alternative rock. I'm not sure. So yeah, uh, I guess it kind of gives me a certain nostalgia. This album, it I've talked about before how there are certain points of your life. Like I said, I wasn't actually listening to this kind of music at the time. You heard it on the radio. You couldn't avoid it, and from people like girlfriends or other people playing it, or on TV, or using TV shows. But I never actually listened. If I think about 1998, because this came out in 97, but it got its most success in 98. In 1998, I was listening to Radiohead. OK Computer by Radiohead. That was a big album for me. Prodigy, Fat of the Land. Korn, Follow the Leader. Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, Nirvana, because I always listen to them. What else was I listening to a lot? Faith No More. Listened to a lot of Faith No More. They'd just broken up, but I was listening to them a lot. Chili Peppers. I really like One Hot Minute, even though the album's been a couple of years old by that time. I was listening to them a lot. Sure there are, of course there was lots of other ones, but that's the kind of the music that I think that kind of defines that period, especially 98, Korn. I was really into Korn at that time, and Radiohead, which kind of seems like strange bedfellows, Korn and Radiohead, but that is what I was listening to. And then also a lot of classic rock. I mean, one of my friends really loved Led Zeppelin, so we listened to lots of Led Zeppelin. The radio station I listened to the most in my car back then, when I first got my first car, a 1981 Mitsubishi Mirage, was a Radio Haruki, which is a classic rock. So most of the stuff was from the 70s and the 80s, Pink Floyd, Zeppelin, Deep Purple, stuff like that. So I wasn't actually listening to Third Eye Blind. Like I said, if someone said, "Do you like Third Eye Blind?" I'd be like, "Fuck no, those guys suck. That's music for beep," or something like that, something stupid. But now in hindsight, I listen to it, it gives me memories of that time. It gives me nostalgia of that time, even though I wasn't, just from the fact that it was around in the air, And I think it's a good album. I can admit it now. It's a good album. It's got well-written music, and just, like I said, supremely easy to listen to. Easy listening rock. All right. Happy New Year, everyone. Thanks for watching.